You pause this. Do you recognize the three individuals in the foreground of this video?
I do, yes.
Can you start from left to right and describe for the jurors who we're looking at?
I believe that's me in the black coat. To the right of me is Miss Roberts, and on the other side of the car is Miss Reed.
Miss Roberts has, just to distinguish, Miss Roberts seemed to have fur on her hood where you did not?
Yes.
If you could go ahead and play that, please. Pause it, please. Can you see who it appears you're talking to at that point?
I don't know who that is, no.
Go ahead and play it. Pause it. Does it appear that you're engaged in conversation with that person while Miss Roberts is attending to something in the truck and Miss Reed is running back and forth?
Yes, I was speaking to whoever that was.
Do you believe that was a police officer?
I believe, yes.
Go ahead and play it. Mr. Wolk, if you'll stop it at 7:41, please. Could you see what was depicted in the video for about that minute and 10-second runtime?
Yes.
Did it appear that you were engaged in conversation with that other person?
Yes.
When that other person walked away, could you see his jacket?
I couldn't make it out, no.
Did it appear to be he was a police officer?
I'm going to assume it was a police officer, yes.
Okay. In that video, who looks most like she is taking charge, you or Carrie Roberts?
Objection.
Sustained.
Does it appear in that video that you're the one controlling the narrative, at least with law enforcement at that point?
Objection.
Sustained.
Does it appear in that video that you're the one engaging in conversation with law enforcement while Carrie Roberts and Ms. Reed are otherwise occupied?
I am speaking with law enforcement, yes.
Can we move to runtime 8:56? Pause it. Can you see yourself in that video?
I can, yes.
Which person are you?
I'm in the far right.
Speaking to someone?
Yes.
Who is that you're speaking to?
I can't make it out, but it looks like a police officer, possibly.
And Miss Roberts is directly in the middle of the screen, is that right?
I thought that was Miss Reed, but I could be wrong.
Let's go ahead and play it. And at 9:26, you'll stop, please. In that video clip, who among the three of you appear to be most engaged with law enforcement at that time?
Objection.
Can you tell? Can you answer that, Ms. Reed? Can you answer that, Ms. McCabe?
Yes, I can. I was speaking to police officers. Yes, I was trying to help them.
Okay. Can we go to runtime 10:49? This will be from 10:49 to 11:55, Mr. Wolk. Pause it. Who is it that's just gesticulating in the video?
That is me.
Can we go ahead and play it? Did you see yourself in that video, that clip, about a minute-long clip?
Yes, I did.
Who among the three of you appeared to be most engaged with law enforcement in that clip?
I was.
Runtime 2022, Mr. Wolk. Stop it. Do you see yourself in that video?
I do, yes.
You just walked in from frame right?
Yes.
From frame right going left?
Yes, behind Miss Roberts.
Okay,
Yes.
and that's you right in the middle of the screen?
Yes, it is.
And Miss Roberts had already run through, went to her SUV, correct?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and play. This is about a 2-minute clip for the court's edification.
All right.
And this is the last of them. Mr. Wolk, can you pause it? Can you tell who you're speaking to there?
I think it's Mike Lank.
Go ahead and play it. Yeah, just a moment, Your Honor.
All right, while Mr. Jackson is taking a moment, we do want to bring in our guest for this hour to discuss what we've been seeing so far. Joining us now, National Trial Attorney Michael Jaffer. Michael, thank you so much for being with us. All right, just give us your take on what we've seen so far. We've had Jen McCabe on the stand under cross-examination for quite some time.
Yeah, I know what Alan Jackson's trying to do. He's trying to do something very, very difficult. It's like the legal equivalent of like climbing Mount Everest. He has to tie Jen McCabe in with the Alperts, right? Because Jen McCabe was at the house. She was at the gathering at 34 Fairview. So, for example, Kerry Roberts' cross-examination was, a fraction of the time of Jen McCabe's because she wasn't there. But Jen McCabe was there. So Alan Jackson knows that he has to find a way to tie the Alperts and the McCabes, all of them together into one, grand conspiracy. And so that's why this is taking so long, because he's trying to get as many inconsistent statements as possible. And Jen McCabe came ready to play in this trial. I mean, she's doing a fantastic job, and she's frustrating Alan Jackson. She's frustrating him. She's coming off too good, too sincere, too honest, too credible. So, I know what Alan Jackson's trying to do. I don't envy the task. He's actually doing a good job at it. But I think that this cross-examination should have ended a day and a half ago. I think it's going too long. He runs the risk of really, alienating any juror that wanted to buy his theory. I think he runs the risk of alienating them just because of how long he's going. And man, I don't think anyone could stand up to this. Is just basically torture, how long it's taking for her. She's standing up very, very well.
Hey, let's talk about those inconsistencies that the defense wants this jury to hang their hat on, because they're showing that video to try and show that she was much more in control of her emotions. She was calm, and they're insinuating it's because she knew all along what happened to him. This was not her first time seeing John O'Keefe in the snow. I want to know how bad you rate this in terms of a problem for the prosecution on a scale of 1 to 10, Michael Schaefer, because this issue of her texting John O'Keefe at 12:45, telling him to come in. She has before testified that, yeah, I texted when I saw the SUV outside. But it's coming out in court that that text was at 12:45. And the prosecution says that Karen Reed left at 12:33. So was she just texting later than she thought after she saw the SUV, or is what she texted a lie? How bad do you think that is for the prosecution?
That's a great question. I tend to think that it's a 1. I'll tell you why. Because once this trial is done, the jurors are going to have to go into the room and put this all in context, right? There's going to be a lot of trial between now and then. There's going to be a closing argument. They're going to have to put it into context. And so really, if they discard the theory that Jen McCabe had anything to do with John O'Keefe's murder, I think that they will discard the 12:45 text and, versus the 12:33. I think they'll discard it. It's not completely nothing, but I would think that it's going to be, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say a 1, maybe even a 0.
Gotcha. Interesting point. All right, Michael, thank you so much. We're going to squeeze in a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of the Karen Reed retrial when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Kelly Craft in for Ted Rollins along with Julia Janae.
Hey, yeah, let's go back to Dedham, Massachusetts, where it's day 8 in the murder retrial for defendant Karen Reed.
Reed is standing trial for a second time, charged with second-degree murder in the death of her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, who was found dead outside of a friend's home after a night out drinking. This was back in January of 2022.
And right now we're listening to the 3rd day of testimony from Jen McCabe. She's under cross-examination, and Alan Jackson has just shown her a video of a dash cam of police officers that were there at the scene, where you can see Karen Reed, Jen McCabe, and Carrie Roberts back and forth. Let's go back in and see what he questions her on that.
Ms. McCabe, who was most engaged in that clip with law enforcement between and among you and Carrie Roberts and Ms. Reed?
I was.
You noticed when Mr. O'Keefe was placed on the gurney in a prior clip and moved past you, correct?
Yes.
Did you notice what your reaction was when that gurney passed you?
I didn't know.
Did you see that you turned your back completely to Mr. O'Keefe as he passed by?
If that happened, it wasn't on purpose.
Ms. McCabe, when you got to the scene, we can take that down. When you got to the scene at 6:03 in the morning, you immediately recognized, did you not, that this was an emergency situation? High-intensity emergency situation, correct?
I knew it was an emergency situation, yes.
As a matter of fact, a man's life was in grave danger. You knew that.
Yes, I did.
And this is someone that was a friend of yours, correct?
Yes, he was a dear friend.
Not just a friend, but a police officer who was laying, as far as you knew, dying in the snow. Is that right?
Yes.
You knew that you needed to get immediate medical attention, emergency medical attention to him as quickly as you possibly could. Is that right?
Yes.
You knew that minutes counted, right?
Yes.
You knew that seconds counted, correct?
Correct.
This man was grasping, as far as you knew, grasping and clinging to life at that moment. Is that right?
Yes.
That's why you called 911, to get emergency personnel who are trained in CPR and life-saving measures to the scene, to the gentleman, to Mr. O'Keefe, as quickly as you possibly could, correct?
Yes.
You called 911 at about 6:03 and 35 seconds. Is that right? I don't expect you to know down to the second, but it was about a couple of minutes after 6.
Right after, yeah, we found him, yes.
And you're aware from the dash cam that Officer Seraph got there about 6:10, almost on the nose, right?
I didn't pay attention to the time.
You'll agree with me that there was about 6.5 minutes or so between the time you called 911 and the time Officer Seraph got there. Is that right?
If that's what the dash cam says, yes.
On that 911 call, you referred to John O'Keefe as a man passed out in the snow.
Yes.
You didn't say, "This is my friend"?
I needed to get, like you said, emergency there. So
Did
I
you
wasn't
say,
going
"This
to
is
give
my
a
friend"?
I wasn't going to give a description and say my friend is in the snow. I was going to give them the information that I thought was the most important at the time.
Did you say his name?
I just said a man because that was the most important identifying.
You didn't say John?
Eventually in the 911, I do say his name.
You didn't initially say O'Keefe, correct?
No, none of that matters. It was a man in the snow, and I wanted help there.
And you didn't say he's a Boston police officer or an off-duty police officer?
Again, a man needed help.
Yes or no? Did you
No,
say that?
I didn't.
Do you think that might, yes or no, do you think that might have sped things up if they knew, if the 911 operator knew that this was a fallen officer, a fellow officer?
I think 911 comes to everyone equally. I don't think they would have.
Do you think that might have been something important to relay to the 911 officials?
I don't know.
You were even asked by the 911 operator, does anybody know CPR? And your answer was no, correct?
I'd have to listen to it to remember my exact answers.
But it was basically in the negative. No, we're not professionals. We're just out here doing the best we can, correct?
I wouldn't say that, no.
You didn't believe Karen Reed knew CPR?
I didn't know. I don't think I answered that question. I don't think it was asked.
You didn't know if Carrie Roberts knew CPR, correct?
I didn't know if they knew CPR, correct?
And none of you were paramedics?
No.
None of you were first responders?
No.
None of you were trained in emergency life-saving techniques in any way, correct?
Correct.
I have a question, Ms. McCabe.
Mm-hmm.
On all of Fairview, the entire road between Chapman and Cedar Crest, can you think of any person on that road who might have had life-saving techniques trained into them? First responder, someone who knew how to deal with someone in distress, someone with high skill level training. Do you think of anyone on Fairview who had that kind of training?
Can I now or did I then? Which are you asking?
Did you then?
No, then my focus was on John O'Keefe.
Okay, let me narrow the focus. How about on the property? How about at 34 Fairview? Could you think of anyone that was a first responder who would have life-saving training, life-saving technique training under his belt?
Yes, my brother-in-law, Brian Albert.
I mean, it's kind of a strong point, Kelly, that he didn't, or she didn't go and ask her brother-in-law. You think if someone's hurt, first thing you think, is there a doctor in the house?
Right.
And no, he's not a doctor, but he is an officer for so many years, has seen scenes of people like this. It is strange. Let's get to a break. We'll get you back in for more of this cross-examination of Jennifer McCabe after this.
Tonight, on closing arguments, star witness for the prosecution, Jennifer McCabe, faces intense cross-examination. We're live with the latest in the Karen Reed retrial.
Closing arguments with Vinny Politan tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
How do you explain it? Two teenagers, they go from zero to the worst crime anyone can imagine.
I'm done with this interview. I'm letting you out.
Interview with a Killer. New episode, Sunday at 8 on Court TV.
Was Jen McCabe just nosy or was it nefarious? Let's go back to Dedham, Massachusetts, where we are following testimony from her in day 8 of the murder retrial for Karen Reed.
Now, prosecutors say that Reed killed her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, by hitting him with her vehicle and leaving him to die in the snow. Reed's defense team claims that she is being framed as part of a vast cover-up.
And someone they say was part of that cover-up is on the stand now. Jen McCabe, it's her 3rd day of testifying, 2nd day of cross-examination by the defense, and she's being asked about her actions that day on the lawn when she found John O'Keefe and why she didn't think to wake up her brother-in-law in the house of that lawn.
And you didn't go in the house, did you?
No, I did not.
When you arrived at the scene, you didn't go in? Not until much later, correct?
Our focus was John.
You knew that Brian Albert was inside the house. You'd just been with him hours earlier, correct?
Yes.
You knew that his window was 30 feet away. You're staring at it. You could look at it if you wanted to, correct?
It's off to an angle.
And you didn't go in the house then either.
I did not know.
You knew that John O'Keefe was clinging to life during those precious minutes and seconds. Is that right?
I did, yes.
And you also knew that Brian Albert, your brother-in-law, was a first responder trained to deal with people in that kind of distress, correct?
In that moment, my only thoughts were John and everything we could do for John.
And you knew that there were warm blankets inside the house. Is that right?
I did, yes. There were warm blankets in the house.
And you still never went in, did you?
No, I went and attended to John because once I finished calling 911, I went over to John and Kerry Roberts asked me to take over compressions. So I felt like that was more important and 911 was on the way. I never thought about going in the house. I just thought, how can I help John?
You never thought about going in the house, but you did pull out your cell phone and make 2 phone calls, didn't you?
After I called 911, I tried calling my sister, yes.
While John was out in the cold, clinging to life, you weren't doing chest compressions at 6:07 and 6:08, were you?
I was walking over when I was calling.
You were calling your sister on the phone, weren't you, Mr. McCabe?
I was calling them to see if they would come out, but I was going right over to work on him.
And you could have walked the 25 feet to the front door, walked in the house, and screamed for Brian Albert to come out and help you in those precious seconds and minutes, couldn't you?
That would have taken me away from helping John, getting Kerry blankets, giving him compressions.
And making those 2 very important phone calls at 6:07 and 6:08 that you say were not answered, correct?
They were not important phone calls. I tried to call my sister, and then I focused on John.
They were not important phone calls, but they were important enough for you to make while John is clinging to life right there in front of you, right?
As I was walking over, I called to see if she would answer.
And she didn't answer. Let's talk about that. She didn't answer according to you.
So if we're going to talk about it, we're beyond the luncheon break?
Your Honor, I have 2 more questions.
Okay.
And I'll wrap it.
Okay.
Let's talk about that real quick.
Sure.
She didn't answer the phone, did she?
No, she didn't.
So you have a situation where a man is laying dead or dying in the front yard of your sister's house. You see nothing in terms of life inside the house. Lights aren't coming on. They're not getting up. They're certainly not coming outside, right?
They were sound asleep.
They weren't coming outside, were they?
Because they were asleep.
You didn't know if they were asleep. All you knew was there was a severely injured man on the front lawn of their house, and your sister didn't answer the phone, not once, but twice, correct?
Correct, she didn't answer the phone.
Did you think your sister might have been in peril? Did you think to go inside the house and check that they're okay?
I had no reason to think that they weren't okay.
You had no reason to believe they weren't okay. A man was dead or dying on their lawn, and your sister's not answering the phone. And nobody is coming out to the chaos of Karen Reed screaming on the front lawn. You didn't think there was some reason to believe they could have been in peril?
I didn't, because your client was screaming she hit him. She had a cracked taillight. She was crying she hit him. I didn't, but my focus... Can I finish, please?
You had solved the crime right then and there. You solved the whole case.
No, I didn't. I knew John never came in the house, so I had no concern for anyone's safety inside the house.
The reason you didn't go inside the house is because you knew better. You knew better. You knew she wasn't in peril. You knew that Brian Albert wasn't in peril. You weren't worried at all about them, were you?
I was not worried at all because something happened on the front lawn that had nothing to do with anything inside that house.
You weren't worried about them at all because you knew what really happened, didn't you, Ms. McCabe?
At that moment, I didn't know that he was hit by a vehicle and there was taillight found next to him.
That's all I have.
All right, jurors, luncheon break. Let's take...
Whew, that got pretty heated.
It did.
And
his last bit of cross-examination.
Wow, and then we noticed Karen Reed there. If anybody could see her demeanor, she was smiling as Alan Jackson was going and going and going. Let's bring in National Trial Attorney Michael Schaefer. Okay, Michael, what do you make of those exchanges?
Wow, that was riveting. Friday, May 2nd, this is the day that I notated that Jen McCabe checkmated Alan Jackson. Right at the end there, that was just like the crescendo. Like, she checkmated him. She did a fantastic job. He was giving it to her, but she checkmated him. Right at the end when he told, why didn't you, he was bringing us all up into, why didn't you go into the house? Your sister, somebody's dead on her lawn. I didn't have to go into her. And then she recited all of her greatest hits. She said, I hit him. She was screaming. Her taillight was broken, and he never came in the house. All the greatest hits that she had, she just put them all out there right at the end. It was riveting, excellent. The jurors are going to have all weekend to think about it, right? They're definitely going to be thinking about it at lunch. That was riveting, palpable moment. I wish I was in the courtroom for it. That you can't write a movie with a script like this. This is high noon, like drama, drama, drama. I wish people watched this trial from beginning to end. This second trial is really living up to its billing as the retrial of the century. That was riveting. Both of those performers, Alan Jackson and Jen McCabe, they've got my gratitude.
Yeah, a real even demeanor from Jen McCabe. In the face of that, I was wondering if she was going to get her feathers ruffled because he was really bringing everything he had at her. I thought that he was seeming to make some headway with this question of why didn't you go in the house? Brian Albert's in the house. You would think that if you have someone that's dying, you are going to use every resource you can, but I think it hurts the argument that she did call her sister twice. He tried to use both things against her. What do you think about that attempt by Alan Jackson?
I think he had to do what he had to do. What he's doing is like the legal version of a pole vault maneuver, right? You have to maintain your momentum throughout the whole entire maneuver, otherwise you'll fall and break your back. He has to do it, right? He has to do exactly what he's doing. She's the case, right? This week was the week of Jen McCabe. But at the end of the day, she has ice in her veins. She came at him right at the end without any voice inflection, and she threw it right back at him. She threw him right back in his lap, said, I wasn't worried. Here's why I wasn't worried. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She just broke down what he spent 3 days to do. She just, in my opinion, broke it down in a matter of 4 sentences.
Michael, why do you think we didn't see some objections from the Commonwealth there? It could have interrupted Alan Jackson's momentum. He was kind of on a roll there. They could have even just said something just to interrupt that momentum he had going.
That's an excellent question. I was thinking about it. Up until this morning, I was worried. I was upset that Hank Brennan didn't object. And I'm like, you know what? Hank Brennan's a really seasoned attorney. He's a criminal defense attorney. He lives on objections, right? So what I thought about this morning was, I think because you always know your customer. Hank Brennan knows his customer. His customer is the jury, people in New England, Massachusetts, right? He didn't want them to hear him object. If he heard them object, because in my opinion is he thinks that this whole defense is a farce, and because of that, if he is seen to be objecting and interceding and defending who Alan Jackson wants to say is part of a corrupt conspiracy, maybe people will actually buy into it. I think it was intentional. He didn't even prepare her for this, and we found out she never even met with him and got prepared. I think he made the gamble that this is a woman who's got ice in her veins. This is her second time around. She doesn't need any more motivation from me, and by the way, if I object, people are going to hear me object. Whatever happens outside of that courtroom and inside the courtroom, osmosis is way for the jury. Even if you object, you cannot unhear something. So in my opinion, I think it was intentional. I think he wanted to let Alan Jackson and Jen McCabe have a clash, like a train collision. He wanted it to happen. We have a spectacle on our hands. There should be a documentary just about this cross-examination. I was very impressed, riveted. That's why I think Hank Brennan did not object. Logically speaking, he should have objected at least every 2-3 minutes. But he didn't object. So, you know, we saw one objection earlier today, but I think it was intentional.
I like that analysis because we were thinking badgering. We were thinking he's interrupting her. She's not finishing her sentence. Yeah. Somebody say something, but you're right. It would have interrupted that moment at the end of Cross. Michael Jafer, thank you so much for your analysis this hour. We have to get to a break, but when we come back, she's not off the stand. Redirect of Jen McCabe is coming after they get back from the lunch break. More of the murder retrial for Karen Reed.